Today's agenda is going to be very interesting. We have the guest of honor, Dr. Kim, who is here to talk a little bit about something we completely never talked about in this course, and that is teaching math to kids with disabilities.
Okay, so what are the math difficulty among children? That's what we wanted to talk about at the first part. And the second part, I just wanted to show you different math instructions, okay? And then the final one that I will show you the example, so you don't have to follow it, but if you want to, you can try it. You know about the CC, it's a Common Core, the beginning. People didn't like it because it's not concrete, it's more abstract, it's more philosophical. But when I first saw it, I loved it from the moderate to severe point of view. Because it is abstract, there's a lot more room that we can work. Implement this Common Core to special ed. That's why I like it. But basically, if you see, instead of going here to high school, it's stacked together. So basic thing is the most important thing is this one. Okay. And then if you can see, they go a little bit more deeper and deeper, but focus is from a variety of a strategy. Previously, the calculating more important. Okay, 1 plus 1 equals 2. Right? So 2 is the only correct answer. And then all other ones, just the answer was important. But in the Common Core, process is more important, and then application of that process in the problem solving. So that's why it is very important, and how the Common Core, we can unpack it, what is important part, so we can apply to our teaching. So think about this one. You have maybe solved it before. There are 13 animals in the barn, some chickens and some are pigs. There are 40 legs, and then how many each animal are there. I will ask you guys do it. Two different ways I can ask you to do it. Number one is, actually we can make an equation. So A plus B equals 13 animals. And then two-legged one is A. And then four-legged animal will be B. In parentheses equals 40. And then you solve this, the formula, then you can come up with the number. And the other way is, you can actually count the leg. So it's a 2 legs there and 4 legs there. And then put the 2 here and then 4 here. So just line them up and then do it. So you can solve it. So this time what I do is both will come up with the correct answer. But the thing is, this one takes longer. And then this one is shorter. That's the only difference. As you get higher, greater, and then using the equation in a higher math function, yes, it becomes efficient. However, whatever you use, it's possible. So never think math is only equations. We can do different ways. Okay, struggle with math, of course, memory, and then attention. Let's say, intellectual disability or helplessness. This will cover students with mild to moderate. Support needs, I wanted to change the vocabulary now on. So anxiety, personality, passive, if you have a lack of a persistent, then it will be an issue. So that's why many students in classrooms struggle with math. Many of us as a teacher have an issue like
Dr. Kim, we have a question in chat.
yeah.
And that is, what is helplessness?
If you fail again and again and again, and then even before you try anything, you just kind of decide, oh, I cannot solve it at all. I cannot attack it. I will not be able to do it. So that's a learned helplessness. I am helpless, but that helpless was learned through the experience. That's a learned helplessness.
Right.
So many students with mild to moderate will experience that. They try hard, fail, then even they will not try it. And about the math, this one has a little bit of a good side for us. So this for first grade students with disability in mathematics, and then they have trouble in counting, naming and writing and memory retrieval. So that's the first graders, even they have to have it. And then if you, this is like a lowest 10% in the kindergarten, remain math issue 5 years later. So students fail to acquire a number in the kindergarten, then they will have a greater risk failure in math in the long run. So if you are teaching younger students, make them happy with math, fun with the math, so then they will be happier one. All right, so if you are teaching younger students, make a lot of fun game with it. One of them is me, we, to you. So this one is I do, we do, and you do. That's the process. So I will show, as a teacher, I will show them how to do it. And then we do, and then the students will do it, will demonstrate, okay? And then you do, students will do it as a small group, and then eventually do independent work. So you have to show it and explain to them, and then give them chance to solve it. They need time to do it. Okay. Always math, they have an independent practice time built in. And then adaptation, we can change curriculum, and then instructional strategy and ecological, so like environment, we can change it. But let's think about the differentiated instruction just for a second, okay? We have to know what their strengths are, right? And needs are. Are they ready? What is they're interested in? And then learning profile, we have to know about the child first. And then we have to address their differences by differentiating content. You can give a little more, little less, or process. Give them a little more time, or the other ones or product. We can give a little less, and then they can show it different ways. Okay? And environment, and then practice guides principle is, respectful tasks. This is what I believe. Special education teachers' expertise is knowing their strength and how much support we have to give. Assessment and flexible group. You make a little groups flexible. Don't stick with the one group. Tiered instruction. Having hard time, we will individualize. So see, this one is a Gen Ed math instructions. Okay, so what they do is you prepare one level test, but make sure that you will prepare some below level task as well, and then above level tests. So in general ed, the multiple subject teachers will do this way, at least 3 different levels, and then this level they make changes. Okay, so you can do some times your pace different, or material differences, or the make a structure a little easier, or complexity change. So make many different aspects. You make a adjustment here, and then a little bit higher. Think about even children with disability. Some students is good at some different areas. If you are helping other students who needs more support, you always prepare more for child who can excel.
Dr. Kim, I just wanted to make a comment based
Mhm.
on this slide just really quickly,
Mhm.
because very often,
Please.
we have discussions about, you may be paired with a very good math teacher, who is very proud of. This is a perfect slide to show how much you can do, around this to accommodate students.
Mhm.
I just really, really appreciate it. And it actually transcends content areas, but for us to think about that there are 7 different domains, plus, you can adjust the strategies, just
Mhm.
like Dr. Kim was showing, right? Inserting an extra step, and then becomes an accommodation of a strategy. I really appreciate that.
Yes. So even Gen Ed teachers will learn this much, how to teach education, math instruction strategy. They will learn this much. So if you ever team teach with Gen Ed teachers, you remember, let's do, this is great that you do on level task you're doing. So how about if we differentiate 2 different ways, and then as a special ed, we can almost individualize. So if there's a 15 students, I can make a 15 different levels just in case. So we can go one step further than gen ed teachers, but we can respect them and ask them to do this much. Okay, the other way, CRA. Okay, so number one is a concrete, representational, abstract. So actually concrete ones, you use tangibles. And then the other one is just drawings. And then abstract means numbers are real abstract form. And then actually I put more, if you're teaching remotely, you need some virtual manipulatives. I want you to try virtual manipulative. This link, I will give it to Dr. Osipova, so you will have it. So virtual manipulative or the real manipulative. Okay, so CRA. Think about that. The other one is guided note is like a graph. It's a guided right there, right? So this is very good to understand the placement. Think about child with mild motor support needs. Visual perception can be a little off. Then, although they wanted to do once and a tenth, it's a different space and they will make a mistake. So that's why guided notes will be a very good one to use. Right here, even you don't have to draw it or buy it. It's online. It's a resources. They have many different types of the graphic notes. So you can just download it and then you can use it in your classroom. Linear model. This is another way that you can, and then sometimes you can do from here, okay? So 3, 1, 1, 2, 3. So just have some models there. And then you go into the 2 more. Then what happened? And so here's a 4 and 5. So you will get the 5. Visual. So they will actually do by hand and then move around. And then if you are teaching younger kids, have a rabbit move around. Or today we will have a turtle move around. So if you like chicken, you can give a chicken to them. So you do. And then the other way is from 5 here, and then you move 2. So subtract, you go backwards. So you have to give a directional, and then they will know the answer. So this is support. This one actually I never used it myself, but this is another way. They say CCC, cover, copy, and compare. I don't know how they do it, but maybe it's a times table they do more. Okay, so there's a fact, so they will have it, and then they will fold it right there. Fold it right there, so you will not see them. Right? And then you write it yourself. Okay.
It's interesting because it's also a strategy that is very widely used in spelling. So, the mechanism is just to support the memory by including multisensory instruction. You say it, you see it, you write it, you check it,
Right. And then here's this is from there. So it's a check, or you just kind of repeat next time and next time. So the fluency is the issue here. So how fast you can memorize and then you can write it in. So when you are teaching little more difficult math concept, what do you have to do? Graphic organizer. Right in the middle, write the vocabulary that you are going to teach in the math concept. And then say what is the definition, and then what are the facts and characteristics of that concept, and then example, non-example. So you give the poster and then give to the students. So study it before you going in to teach the math concept and then formula and then calculation. So they have to learn the vocabulary before they going into math skill. So here's a math. You are supporting student right there. Okay, so this one is the purpose is all days just a math skill, calculating the number. But now we wanted to do real application we wanted to think about. So that going into the functional math. So what they are facing in the natural environment, what are the questions we can help them to solve it. Eventually, logical thinking, we're developing their mental cognitive thinking. And the other part is confidence and positive attitude. So math is not anymore just a number game or the calculation of the numbers. It's not the math anymore. Ultimate goal of a Common Core math, problem solving effectively. So as you get higher functioning, higher level of a math, solve the problem efficiently, faster, quick. That's what it is. Just a speed, and then I can show it to you. But Where did I have it? If you are teaching younger kids or students with intellectual disability, I put the pebbles in the back, and then I can show it to you, and then I can ask you how many marbles in this the bag. The answer is I can say 10, or I have a 20 or 15, so you give a number. But what if you have 17 marbles in the bag? These answers, no, you're wrong. You're wrong. You're wrong. So actually, this is not very good question. So I'm so glad Dr. Osipova asked about the learn it helplessness. So you have to give success experience to the children. I can say, how many is in there, but I can say what do you think how many is in here? So estimate how many you think. So if you ask what do you think is an estimate, then these are all good answers. Great. Very close. I would guess that many. And then let's count them. And then count. You are the closest. You understand? So give them more experience opportunities, the success. All right. Instead of how many, estimate. So question is different now.
I wanted to make a very, very quick comment. So
yes.
This is a perfect example of, something I was also thinking back with that you said about respectful questions, right? We have children with different ability levels and different confidence level, right? And if you are asking, it could be read aloud, or like Dr. Kim said, a very precise question, how many, the chances of you being wrong or the chances of your struggling are huge. And therefore it's not, it's not very respectful. It's not very, supportive. It doesn't boost confidence, right? Whereas can you estimate is a far gentler question. And that's a question to begin with. And then you can be increasing the level of challenge using,
yes. Agree. Very good. Okay. So this is what I'll say as a math. Sorting is a very important part of the math. So I can give this one paper, and then I said, four friends are playing here together. One of them is wearing special clothes. Who is it? Anybody volunteer to answer?
I think they're all different.
Why?
Because no one is wearing the same outfit. They're all wearing a very unique outfit.
Oh my God, I never thought of that. I thought I supposed to answer only one. Anybody else want? I will have one more volunteer.
I'll volunteer.
Oh, thank you.
The kid in the back has different color shoes.
My God, that's not. I didn't see that child has a different color shoes. Good. Wow, observation. Very, very good. See, do you see what I'm saying? Maybe we can say, wearing the red is a typical answer. However, if you ask them, then what is the right here? Okay, this one is a different. Everybody is a different. So question is not red. The answer is not red, but their cognition. Why do you think so? Different shoes, even a teacher. Oh my God, I never see that different colored shoes. Oh my, I never ever thought about the different. Everybody's different. You learn from your student and you can encourage them to think more. That makes sense? Always ask why. Okay, here's another one. Two are the same and one is different. Which is the different? This is different, right? But why? Why? Somebody will say, it's a shirt, and the other ones are hats. Somebody will say, this one is a white, the band will go around, but this one is a fingers. That can be different. Or you can do, what is the different? So you might do different this one. Okay, this is a different. But no matter what, child logical explanation has to be praised. Correction comes next. Okay?
Because it is also thinking out of the box, and by just saying like, oh no, that's wrong, the girl in the red dress is obviously, differently dressed differently.
Right.
That squishes any kind of thinking out of the box, right?
Right.
And throughout the semester, I sounded like a broken record to my students, always saying, just always ask why, like why, and you might be surprised because sometimes you just don't see what they see, like the shoes or,
Right.
the band.
Oh my God, that's you and I are best pal. And then now here is getting more difficult. It seems like a simple sorting task. You can add the difficulty, color or different clothing, do it. Okay, now stickers. You give the every stickers for the, oh, you did good. Here's the sticker. Or you did sit still sticker, or you raise your hand sticker. I know you use them for reward, but use this way. Give them sticker and then make your own question. Next level will be make your own question. So child will put the sticker here, 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 and then here. They will make a question and then they will answer. And then what do you do? Not
Great.
good job. It's not the answer. What do you have to do? It says starts with a W.
The why.
Why? Why did you make this way? And then why this is different?
Dr. Kim, I have a real life example. I just have to share, in
Oh,
the name
please.
of Mother's Day, right? So when Leo was 3, he was being assessed, and he was being assessed for the first time in terms of his IQ, right?
Uh-huh.
So we were at the regional center and they had all these, questions for him. And some were nonverbal and some were verbal. And both sets of questions illustrated exactly what Dr. Kim was saying, because he looked at, this kind of question that you have on the screen right now. And the question for the 3-year-old was, which one doesn't fit? Okay, and it's a scripted test, right? It's a standardized scripted test. And Leo looked at the assessor and said, well, the one that doesn't fit is not on this page. Because, he was thinking like an elephant or, like a giant truck or whatever that is, right? But it was very literal, but it was a different question. But it was scored wrong because, standardized test has a set of answers that you expect. And so if she asked why, he would have told her a really good story. But that wasn't part of the test.
When you are teaching your students in classroom, cognitive level, that's very important. So that's why, obviously, Leo's case, Leo is a brilliant. I mean, even nobody was thinking, oh, it's not there. Their thinking is completely different than what we think. So in the future, think about the future, okay? In the future job, it's not concrete at all. They might have that creativity is the most important thing. So you have to, their potential for creativity has to come. So you have to really nurture that one. Through math, you can do that. You'll ask them, okay, make your own different stickers, and then ask, what do you have to do? What do you have to ask? W. Why? Always ask. So it's not only for your student in the classroom. Whenever you meet your niece or nephews or your own children, ask why. Why is the very, very good the developmental, cognitively building a factor. People start not asking questions. It's the end of their development. That's the way I feel. Okay, so make it a little bit more difficult. What I'm saying is simple task, always as a special ed teacher's a magic trick, you can make it always more difficult. Okay, so now as a 2 more, so they have a 5, so they have to find the 2. Now, I told you that math is not the number anymore. Always now the Common Core lead into math into literacy. Is identify the problem, math, so around them, functional problem, and then ask them to translate that one into the math problem so they can draw, like, oh, I see the apple, 4 apples, and then I ate them, 2. So how many left? And then solve the problems. I solved it, and then apply to the real life. So I gave, I have a 4, but I ate 2, so I can only give a 2 to grandma. And then if you are teaching extensive support need, when you do the life functional math skill into the literacy, and then when child is reading the reading math problem, you can put some visual to help them to understand the word problem. So functional math is a financial literacy. This is a new topic these days. I met one student in the doctoral program. She wanted to teach students with a mild to moderate disability financial literacy. So it's these days everything is a literacy, right? technology literacy and literacy is important. So money management and purchasing, all this, and time management is very important. For I'm teaching the extensive support and medication. How many pills are left, so when do you have to call the doctor's appointment or the pharmacy, so get the one, and you took 3 pills, now how many pills you have to take more, so it's a real ones. And then you will have a 15 minutes break after 45 minutes work, and then you are into 30 minutes, how many more minutes to work more to get the break. And so those are all functional math, okay, actually. So you solve this one and then apply real one. And after that one, do you remember that I asked you to ask them to solve the problem, ask them to make their own problem and solve, ask them to explain what it is, and then at the end, I want you to write it. Okay, so write a beautiful sentences. So like 1 plus 2 equals, what is that? 1 plus 2 equals 3. Okay, 3. You want them to write a beautiful story about it, Today is Mother's Day, a Teacher's Appreciation Day. So I have a 1 carnation, but the other students brought 2, so we add them all together, and my teacher got beautiful 3 carnations, something, so like make it beautiful. So that's a literacy. Math to end up at the end, literacy. So make sure they are connected. It's not separate, the content area. So we provide accommodation, end of it, on time, right?
Yes, you did. Oh, absolutely. Thank you.
Thank you. I think best bet is if your children, oh, math is fun, then that's really half success right there. Even teach anything. All right. All right.